You're joking, aren't you? It's the Teesside Chef. Turkish Pide, 3 ways for you here. And I like 3 ways, but as this is a family-friendly video, let's just concentrate on the food, eh? And for me, to make the best pita, you need pizza flour. This will give you a smashing, chewy, airy texture to what is essentially a Turkish version of a pizza, I suppose. And if you have not yet discovered the wonders of pizza flour, I urge you to give it a try on all your flatbread type things, and pizzas of course. And the full recipe for this dough is in the description below. I'll also give you information about how you can adjust it if you don't have pizza flour. But in any event, you want to knead this dough by hand or in a posh machine like this for around 10 minutes. And as I turn my machine to low at the end of the kneading process, I'm drizzling a little oil in here to prevent stickage and to prepare for the first rise, which will take around 1 to 1.5 hours. I'll just tidy up this dough a little bit here and cover with some cling film before getting on with the full recipe of our pita toppings. The first of which is a traditional spicy meaty topping, and we're making enough of this for half of our pita. So I'm just starting the process by chopping a medium onion very finely, and I'm going to soften that in a pan for a few minutes, just like this here, look. And once the onion is translucent, I'm going to go in with plenty of garlic, 6 cloves for me, but it's up to you really. But I'm not going to cook that for too long before I go in with 500 grams of mincemeat, and lamb mince would normally be used here, but any mincemeat you like works great. Along with a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, along with 2 heaped teaspoons of paprika powder, and 3 rounded teaspoons of cumin. And I do like to be quite generous with my spices in this, but you can adjust the spices to suit your tastes. So let's add 2 tablespoons of tomato puree, and because the mix can dry out a little when baked on the pita, I also like to add around 3 tablespoons or 50 millilitres of water just to keep everything nice and moist. And a teaspoon each of dried parsley and dried thyme is an optional extra, but you can adjust all of these spices, like I said, to suit your tastes. Now then, 3 chillies for me to add some spice. I've kicked the ends off. I'll chop these finely with the seeds on. These sort of chillies can be a bit hit and miss with the heat, and you can often get a really spicy one and a really mild one in the same batch. So this can be potluck really, but I've got an asbestos gob, so I'm happy to be generous with my chillies. Test it at the end as always to see if it suits your tastes. And next comes a traditional vegetarian filling, which again begins with a chopped and softened medium onion. And if you don't want to watch an onion cooking again slowly, just click like on this video, will you, to help me in the YouTube algorithm. And once that's done, you can watch me put a little less garlic in this one, around 3 cloves, along with 250 grams of spinach. I'm using pre-packed here, but the spinach leaves work just as well, but either way, you will have to wilt it all down in your pan. And add in a very generous amount of black pepper, and an optional teaspoon or 2 of lemon juice. And a pinch of salt, but let's be careful with our salt there, because once you've put all this in a separate bowl to cool down, we're going to be adding 250 grams of feta cheese. And the amount of salt you'll need will depend on how salty your feta cheese is. And this spinach and feta topping will also be about enough for half of the pita that I'm making here. So I've definitely got you fully covered for pita heaven here, because we're making 8 pita. But we're not going to be able to make any pita without the dough. And here it is coming in now. It's doubled in size nicely, so it's time to get it out and cut it into those 8 pieces I was speaking about. And I suppose you could be extra careful and weigh each piece to get a perfectly sized octet here. But it's probably near enough if you just do it by eye. So shape it into a large rectangle, cut it in half again, and in half again. Then you want to roll each piece into a smoothish ball like this, tucking under all the time as you go. Place each piece on a floured surface, making sure to leave a decent-sized gap between them. Cover them in oiled cling film again, and allow them to rise again for a second time for around 45 minutes. And if you're thinking, oh God, this is taking ages, I can't be waiting that long, just stop pissing and whinging for a minute, and while you're waiting, go and watch some of my other videos. I've got loads up here on YouTube. And they'll no doubt put you in the mood to crack on with some baking or cooking, so let's get on with it. On a lightly floured surface, let's flatten this soft dough ball out with our hands before rolling it into the correct shape. And you want to roll the pita dough quite thin. Because we've used pizza flour, the crust will puff up lovely when we bake, and our fillings are not too wet, so we can roll this out to just 3 or 4 millimeters thick, really, in a sort of a large oblong shape until the dough is the size of your 2 hands, unless you're Andre the Giant, of course. Very important to have a pizza shovel or some other similar delivery system in at this point, because you need to slide the pita straight onto a hot baking sheet that's in a boiling hot oven. I've dusted mine liberally with large grain semolina to prevent sticking. And you have to build your pita on the pizza shovel or whatever device you're using to get these straight in your oven. I'm doing the mince one first, starting with mozzarella cheese, and I'm combining that with a bit of cheddar cheese for extra flavour. But don't overdo the cheese here before adding 1/4 of our prepared spicy mincemeat topping. And you want to leave a border of around 1 to 2 centimetres to allow for the technical bit, which is folding the sides up and over and pressing down firmly. This can be a bit fiddly, but it's not too difficult to get right. And the dough will hold okay on the top of the filling there. And now we want to gather the ends up like this. And I like to then give the ends a twist to incorporate a bit of flair to my pita. But as long as the ends are pinched together well, you'll be okay. And it's always prudent to do regular checks that the dough is not sticking to your pizza shovel or pizza delivery system. And brushing the edges of the dough with beaten egg will deepen the golden colour when these are baked. And I'm sprinkling on some nigella seeds to give that lovely typical Turkish flavour to the pita crust. And you can add any other toppings now. I'm adding some thinly chopped chillies, but you can add whatever you like here. And one last stickiness check before sliding straight onto a hot baking sheet in our preheated oven. And you want your oven to be at maximum, and the pita will just need 7 to 8 minutes. So as that one bakes, let's do the spinach and feta one, and I'm adding oiled sun-dried tomatoes on top of this one, which is really, really fancy. And here is our gathering and twisting the ends technique again. And even I can do this with my massive sausage fingers, so I'm sure you'll be alright doing this. And don't forget, of course, to do regular stickiness checks. And then brush the edges with beaten egg. Some more nigella seeds on there. 7 to 8 minutes in a boiling hot oven, and here it is. And the finishing touch to make our finished pita shine is to brush the still hot crust with oil or melted butter, and I think you'll agree that that looks almost good enough to eat there. And because we put this straight onto a hot baking sheet directly in our boiling hot oven, it's had a nice chance to brown everywhere, especially at the bottom, as you can see there. And using milk in the dough helps the dough to brown more and achieve that lovely golden colour to our pita crust. And I did promise you a 3-way, didn't I? But not a rude 3-way. And another perhaps simpler topping for Turkish pita is a cheese and sucuk topping, sucuk being a garlic-infused Turkish sausage, which is amazing, so if you haven't tried it, give it a go. I like to add a few cherry tomatoes on this, as it can be a little bit dry otherwise. Obviously, sticky check again, and let's have another look at that folding over and gathering and twisting technique, which gives the pita its traditional shape. That's looking smashing. More beaten egg to go on the edges there. And I'm going to add some dried thyme on top here, but you can let your imaginations run away with you with these and make them your own. And hey, just look at this one fresh from the oven coming in now. Oh, that's beautiful, that. Turkish pita 3 ways, but not in a naughty way. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Ta-ra.